As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate stretch of highway, I found myself on an unfamiliar road. My gas gauge hovered perilously close to empty, and I had no choice but to pull into the only gas station I could find for miles. The flickering neon sign read, "Petro Stop," its letters partially obscured by rust and neglect. I shivered, a chill running down my spine as I parked my car next to a decrepit fuel pump. The station appeared deserted, the silence broken only by the faint hum of the overhead lights. I scanned the surroundings, noting the cracked pavement and the eerie absence of any other customers. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, I stepped out of my car and approached the pump, determined to fill my tank and get back on the road. I fumbled with the nozzle, trying to insert it into my car's gas tank. It was as if the nozzle hadn't been used in years, covered in a layer of grime and resistance. Finally, it clicked into place, and I began to pump gas. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper from behind me. I turned, but there was no one there. Just the empty station, the shadows growing longer and more ominous. I dismissed it as a trick of the wind and continued pumping gas. But then, I heard it again, the whispering growing louder and more insistent. It seemed to be coming from the nearby convenience store, a weathered building with cracked windows and a flickering open sign. Against my better judgment, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate. The door creaked open as I entered the dimly lit store. Shelves lined with dusty, expired snacks and drinks greeted me. The air was thick with the scent of stale cigarettes, and a low hum emanated from the ancient refrigerators. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" There was no response, but the whispering had grown even louder. It was as if voices were converging from all corners of the small store. I followed the eerie chorus down an aisle, my heart pounding in my chest. That's when I saw them. Shadows, moving and shifting in the corners of my vision, but vanishing when I turned to look directly at them. The shelves seemed to rearrange themselves, items appearing and disappearing at will. The whispering grew more frantic, and I realized the voices were pleading, desperate. "Help us, trapped, don't leave!" I stumbled backward, my pulse racing. As I reached the entrance, I glanced back at the store, and a ghostly figure materialized before my eyes. An old man, gaunt and pale, his eyes filled with sorrow. He extended a trembling hand toward me, his voice a mournful wail. "Please, you have to help us." Terrified and bewildered, I bolted from the convenience store and back to my car. The gas pump had stopped, and my tank was full, but I didn't care. I peeled out of the Petro Stop, the haunted whispers fading behind me as I sped down the dark highway. I never spoke of that night to anyone, fearing they'd dismiss it as a hallucination or a trick of the mind. But the memory of the Petro Stop, with its spectral voices and restless shadows, haunts my dreams to this day. And as I pass by deserted gas stations in the dead of night, I can't help but wonder what other secrets lie hidden in the darkness, waiting for the unsuspecting traveler to stumble upon. The night was unusually dark and stormy, rain pouring down in torrents when I found myself stranded on a desolate stretch of highway. My car's engine had sputtered to a halt, the dashboard illuminated with a hauntingly red E for empty. Thunder cracked and lightning illuminated the forlorn landscape, revealing a lone gas station in the distance. With no other options, I trudged through the rain towards my only hope, the last chance fuel stop. The gas station was a dilapidated relic of a bygone era, its neon sign flickering ominously. I could barely make out the words, but they seemed to taunt me. Fuel up or fade away. As I parked my car next to a battered fuel pump, I noticed that the station's windows were boarded up, save for one broken pane that allowed a dim, eerie light to spill out. I grabbed the fuel nozzle, its cold metal biting into my hand, and attempted to fill my tank. But nothing came out, not even a drop of gasoline. Frustration welled up inside me, and I turned to peer inside the station's convenience store, despite my growing unease. Inside, the shelves were lined with dust-covered, long-expired snacks and drinks. The air was stifling and carried a pungent odor of decay. A sense of dread washed over me, but it was the eerie silence that unnerved me the most. There were no sounds of creaking floorboards, no background hum of refrigerators, just silence. As I ventured further into the store, I heard a soft, mournful sobbing coming from the shadows in the back. My heart pounded in my chest as I whispered, "Hello? Is someone there? The sobbing grew louder, and I could make out the figure of a young woman sitting on the floor, her back hunched, her long wet hair obscuring her face. "Please help me," she whimpered. I hesitated, my instincts warring with my desire to assist. Slowly, I approached her, my voice shaky. "What happened? Are you okay?" She looked up at me, her eyes hollow and filled with anguish. "We're trapped here. We can't leave. You have to help us." Before I could respond, the store seemed to come to life. The shelves rattled, products flew off them, and the flickering fluorescent lights above us swung wildly. More figures, translucent and flickering like ghosts, materialized around us. They were trapped souls, their faces etched with suffering, their voices a chorus of despair. Desperate and terrified, I stumbled backward, my heart racing. I dashed for the exit, the ghostly figures reaching out towards me, their cries growing louder and more desperate with every step. As I burst out into the storm, I fumbled for my car keys, praying my vehicle would start. With a roar, the engine sprang to life, and I sped away from the last chance fuel stop, the anguished wails of the trapped souls echoing in my ears. I never looked back, but the memory of that night, of the haunted gas station and the souls it held captive, still haunts my every dream. As I drive past gas stations on stormy nights, I can't help but wonder if there are more places like the last chance fuel stop, where lost souls linger, waiting for someone to set them free or to share in their eternal torment. The sun had long dipped below the horizon, plunging the world into darkness as I cruised down an unfamiliar winding road. My fuel gauge hovered dangerously close to empty, and my GPS indicated no signs of civilization nearby. Desperation clawed at my throat as my car sputtered to a halt on a remote stretch of highway. My heart pounded as I scanned the desolate landscape, my only glimmer of hope a flickering neon sign in the distance. It read, "Midnight Oasis Gas and Grill," its letters half obscured by layers of grime. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but with no other options, I reluctantly steered my car toward the eerie oasis. The gas station was a relic from the past, its once vibrant colors faded to a sickly shade of green. The pumps looked ancient, and a strange silence hung in the air, broken only by the intermittent buzzing of flickering fluorescent lights overhead. I parked my car and stepped out, my footsteps echoing in the emptiness. The entrance to the convenience store was marked by a rusty bell that jingled with an eerie, discordant chime as I pushed the door open. Inside, the shelves were stocked with faded, long-expired products, and a chill gripped me as I realized that the store appeared to be frozen in time, a relic from decades ago. As I ventured further into the store, I heard faint, mournful whispers emanating from the shadows. "Help, trapped, can't leave." The voices seemed to echo from every corner, and I followed their haunting chorus down a narrow aisle. There, I saw her, a young girl with dirty, disheveled hair, huddled in a corner. She was weeping softly, her eyes filled with an overwhelming sadness. I approached cautiously and asked, "Are you okay? What's happened here?" She looked up at me, her eyes haunted. "We're stuck here, all of us. You have to help us escape." Before I could respond, the store came alive with an eerie energy. Shelves rattled, products fell to the floor, and the flickering lights grew brighter. More ghostly figures materialized around me, their faces etched with sorrow and longing. They were trapped souls, their voices a lamenting choir of despair. Terrified and overwhelmed, I stumbled backward, my heart racing. I sprinted for the exit, the ghostly figures reaching out as if to pull me back into their spectral realm. I burst out into the night, gasping for breath, and fumbled for my car keys. The engine roared to life, and I sped away from the midnight oasis gas and grill, leaving behind the anguished cries of the trapped souls. I drove on, never looking back, but the memory of that night and the haunted gas station stayed with me, a chilling reminder of the hidden horrors that could lurk in the most unexpected places. As I passed by remote gas stations in the dead of night, I couldn't help but wonder how many other unsuspecting travelers had stumbled upon similar terrors, trapped between the realms of the living and the dead.